and welcome back to the Eyes Up Life podcast with me, Ben Granis. So glad you're here. We are here to talk about and talk with Barry Nobles. But first, if you're new to the Eyes Up Life podcast and to this Eyes Up experience, here's some background for you. Eyes Up began as a 7,000-mile bike ride around the United States to raise awareness for distracted driving, to promote digital wellness. I completed this ride by myself over the course of 125 days on the road. I just wrapped it up in September of last year. Immediately after completing the ride, I set out on a road trip to interview 21 athletes, professionals in their field, and sponsored by Maxxis tires. These athletes are incredibly kind people. Maxxis Tires is a great organization for supporting this cause, helping make this project happen, and connecting me with these individuals, which you will listen to today. This is the 20th episode in the Eyes Up Maxxis series, so make sure you check out all the previous episodes, ranging from news professionals to professional supercross racers. There is something in the series for everyone, and every episode has something that applies to every single person, and I truly believe that because distracted driving affects all of us. We all have phones. We're all susceptible to the distractions and all of the noise that they throw at us. Today we're speaking with Barry Nobles, and I met Barry in Alabama. Barry is known as the Alabama Slamma. He is one of the best BMX racers of all time and is still competing. He is a father, an awesome person, a BMX racer, and so many other things which he talks about in our conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Barry is an incredibly humble guy. He's out there trying to do his best to inspire the younger generation of BMX riders and be a great father and husband, and it was a pleasure to meet him. And he even let me camp in his driveway. So after our interview, I got some dinner. I camped in my friend's truck, which I was driving, and slept in Barry Noble's driveway. Yep. We don't really talk about that in the podcast, but that is okay. Hope you enjoy the conversation. Here is Barry Nobles, episode 20. We'll talk to you at the end.
My name is Barry Nobles. We're in Birmingham, Alabama.
Sweet. And how long have you been living here, Barry?
Been living here just over 3 years now.
Sweet. And you grew up in this area near here, or what's your growing up background?
I grew up about an hour and a half south in the capital, which is Montgomery. My parents and family are still down there. So when I moved back to Alabama, I knew the bigger city is kind of where I wanted to be.
When you said you moved back, where did you go between childhood and now?
In 2009, when my BMX career was kind of really taking off, I moved to Southern California, moved into the Olympic Training Center, and ended up being there for 10 years, almost to the month, before I decided to leave and come back to Alabama.
Sweet. So walk me through your career. When did it start? How did you get to where you are now?
The whole career, man, it's pretty much my whole life. I started racing BMX when I was 3 years old in the late 80s. Sport was kind of dying off back then, especially in small town Alabama. Local tracks shut down, and I was so young, it was just kind of something I did. I didn't understand the concept of it at the time, I guess. My dad just took me out because he knew I loved to ride BMX, and after the track shut down, I just remember my whole childhood, continued to ride bikes with neighborhood friends and family members that were around. And started again when I was 10 years old, actually in this town, Birmingham, Alabama, at the track I'm currently training at now.
Oh, right on. Yeah. How did you get to such a high level, like where you are now?
So I started back racing BMX at 10 years old, and I fell in love immediately. Went through the amateur ranks. I won a world title in 2003 in Perth, Australia. That was really my first amateur title. It was, I was 16 years old, so it was right before I was wanting to go pro anyways, and it was kind of like that was like my coming out year, I would say, when I kind of started getting really successful as an amateur. A few years later after that, 2005 is when I finally signed the papers to turn pro, and that was A Pro. I did A Pro for 1 year. That's kind of the starter pro class in BMX. And then what they do is when you win a certain amount of money in 1 calendar year, you're automatically bumped up to the next class, which is today Elite Men. And so I bumped up to that. I went into Elite Men I turned Elite in 2006, and it was just a snowball effect. Every year we'd get a little better, fight an injury, get good results, give new goals, and sorry, I didn't want to run on. I didn't want to drag that one out too long.
No, you're good. Is there a step above Elite Men, or is that it?
No, Elite Men is the highest you go. That's the same as like downhill world or the mountain bike world. It's all Elite Men is the highest level of the race category.
For BMX.
For BMX, I mean, same in mountain bike as well. Elite Men is like anything that's in like the UCI categories, it's Elite Men. That's the top rank. Yeah.
So I honestly am not super familiar. So I don't really know a whole lot about the BMX world. How do you train for it? What's a race like? And how do you even prepare for?
So BMX racing is considered, we're considered sprint athletes. So everything is high intensity, like explosive movements. So right here behind me, I have my own personal gym where just pretty much hips down. I mean, you're working the full body, but you got to build these legs for that fast sprint. So if you look at it, for someone who doesn't know BMX at all, it's kind of like we all know motocross or supercross. It's like a sized down version of a motocross track. We're full sprint, big jumps, big gaps we have to clear, and just 1 lap at a time, not multiple laps, normally 4 straights at a time. And start to finish, first one there wins.
Wow, but it's all powered with your legs, unlike
all powered with exactly. I mean, there's so many different bike disciplines. You have the downhill world is pretty much just hold on for the ride and pin it through some of the gnarly stuff I don't even want to ride. Then you got the cross country guys. They're out there pedaling in the saddle for hours, and it's such a different engine from us BMXers who work in probably 30-second increments compared to like mountain bike people that are out there for hours at a time. So, I mean, it's still bike riding, right? But it's so much. I mean, every personality and every rider is so much different because it's such a different engine to power whatever discipline you're doing.
Have you dabbled in the other racing worlds, or has it mostly just been BMX?
So I've always raced BMX since day one, but I've always had passion for experiencing other bicycle disciplines, and pretty organically comes mountain biking. You step up from the BMX over to the mountain bike world. I've always had a big passion for freestyle, so I raced 4-cross here and there throughout the years, my younger days of BMX, and then around 2012 or so is when I really started putting a little more focus into like the Crankworx series, and I was doing dual slalom, pump track, speed and style events, which is like dual slalom with 2 trick features in the middle, which actually fit my personality really well because being a BMX racer, I was always the guy getting distracted by wanting to ride trails or do tricks and stuff like that. So speed and style was such an easy move for me because I could go fast, I could have that competitiveness of just sprinting to the finish line against someone else, but I also had my chance to do tricks and learn that whole side of riding that I never actually put a lot of focus into. So.
You mentioned that you lived at the Olympic, the Olympic Training Center? Where is that, and what was that experience like?
So there's a few Olympic training centers around the country. Chula Vista, California I believe that's mainly outdoor sports. So I got invited there back in 2008, when I first started winning Elite Men races. It was kind of like USA Cycling was the first time that was the first time USA Cycling kind of noticed me, and I was kind of an up-and-comer. So I got invited out to the training center to get ready for the 2009 World Cup Series, because we had just had our first BMX debut in Olympics in 2008 in Beijing. I didn't go for that. I didn't try to make that. I missed out on that whole time frame, mainly because that was the year I kind of really started doing good stateside on U.S.-based tracks. So 2009 is when I finally stepped into the World Cup scene, and that's when I got invited out to the Olympic Training Center, and ended up living there for about a year. And unfortunately blew out my knee. Came back home to Alabama for a few months because my surgeon is a local surgeon here. And yeah, got on my recovery, got invited back to the training center to do all my recovery back out in California, and yeah, and then I just never looked back, and I was in California to stay at that time.
So how many years roughly did you spend in California? Where you lived there?
10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so I moved there in 2009 into the training center. I was there for a year. During that year is when I came home and had surgery, and then I went back there, and then eventually my time ran out where it was like the end of a season and people aren't living there full time. So it was the end of that season, and then ended up getting a place an hour north in Temecula, California area. And then I was there until 2019. So total of 10 years I was in California.
And did you end up making it with your recovery and everything back to World Cup status?
Yeah.
Did you go to?
Yeah, no, I didn't make the Olympic. I came back from that injury 2010 season. I was back fresh and ready to start that season properly. So obviously missed out on the whole 2009 series. I mean, that was the second lap of the first race of the World Cup seasons when I blew my knee out. So I missed that season. I went in for the 2012 Olympic run, qualified for the U.S. Olympic trial, qualified for the Olympic U.S. trials in 2012, made it to the Final Four there, and winner take all at that race, and didn't end up winning, so I didn't go to Olympics. Fast forward another 4 years, kind of head down and get ready for 2016 Olympics. Same process, made it back to the trials, and I finished second in the trials behind Corbin Sherraw, who was the one who went to the Olympics in front of me. So I just missed it by that one spot, but which is fine. You know, it was my personality my personality as a rider has had a lot of distractions throughout my throughout my career. So the guy who won definitely deserved it more than I did, and it was kind of a good step away point. Not a retirement, but it was kind of like my point where I was like, okay, BMX needs to get pushed to the side a little bit, and that's when I started focusing on the mountain bike for a little bit more.
So what's the balance now between BMX and mountain bike competition for you?
Before going into 2016, I was trying to balance it a little too much, especially like trying to make Olympics. I didn't really need to be doing the freestyle and mountain bike stuff that I was doing. But I knew that's where I wanted to go, and I already kind of started putting my foot in that world a little more, but I had to go through that whole 2016 run. So when I went into it, I fully stepped away from BMX. I was full mountain bikes for a couple years, and that was 2016. 2019, going through a lot of the crank works, my tricks started getting bigger, and I always had a goal when I was a kid of going to the X Games. And 2019 came around, and I started seeing the contests that were getting these guys in the X Games. I thought, well, it was 2 jumps, so if I can learn just 2 good bangers, maybe I can get myself into the X Games, that was my Olympics. It was like growing up, I always wanted to be in X Games when a lot of these guys I compete against wanted to be in the Olympics. So it took me a while to get older to actually realize that, but yeah, that was my real passion. And when I had that goal in 2019, that's where my focus was. Ended up qualifying, or I ended up getting invited to the 2019 X Games for BMX dirt and actually the Harley flat track racing, which was a dream come true. And it was kind of, like I said, then I wasn't really balancing the BMX and mountain bike. I was doing all the freestyle stuff on the mountain bike, which transferred over to the BMX really well. COVID happened, everything shut down. kind of didn't, like, just like everybody else, I didn't really know what I was doing. Everything that my goals were in, just, we had no idea what the future held or when these events were going to pop back up. USA BMX was still carrying on races through COVID, and I'm not someone that wants to kind of live behind social media. I want to be out there with the people, and I want to be competing, and I ended up just pretty much by accident, not by accident, but just for a kind of to kill some time going back to BMX, and now here we are, 2022, and I'm up for the current Vet Pro title. I'm not racing elite anymore. I stepped back into the Vet Pro class since I'm mid-30s now, and again, it's such a different engine from the mountain bike world. If I do mountain bike races and stuff, I still race the elite class, but you can't really do that in the BMX world like you can in mountain bike. You got to be, these guys are true athletes. Not taking it away from the mountain bike riders at all. It's just, again, a completely different engine. And at 35 years old, I definitely can't sprint quite as good as some 20-year-olds. And
right, the sprinting is a little bit less sustainable than the sort of longer term endurance.
I think I could still be at that level. I mean, I'm still at that level, not the winning level, but I'm still capable of being in main events for that class. But to be honest, at 35, I don't. A 20-year-old coming in trying to make a name for himself, and inside me or something in a turn, it's just not as worth it as it used to, you know?
Yeah, so where do you see your career for the next, 5, 10 years? Or is it hard to say?
Man, it's hard to say. At this point, I'm about to be 36 years old, and I love what I'm doing, but it takes a toll on you, especially being the athlete I've been through my whole career that's always had distractions. It's never been 100% focused on one thing. This year, I've been 100% focused because I had to take this year to prove myself that I can be that champion or have that champion mindset, Last year was the first full year back in BMX. We did a little bit in 2020. 2021 was the first full season back. Ended up second overall with kind of the same way, just out there having fun. And this year, I really wanted to win and prove myself that I can stay focused and get through a whole season. And it's been quite the personal goal racing this class. I never thought I would even be racing the Vet Pro class, but it's had huge growth. We've had the engagement we have through the BMX world is awesome. Vet Pro has always kind of been the sideshow class to watch, and now we're properly putting the class on the map, and everybody's on the sides wanting to watch us just as much as the elites, which is really cool, and it's motivating to please the fans when they watch us on social media, and makes me want to go out there and win even more. So it's been fun, kind of just for the first time in my career, just keep my head down and grind out to get to the end of the season and take that championship. And but I'm pretty burnt I'm pretty worn out, to be honest. Like,
understandable.
Yeah, like my social media has not slacked, but you have you're either the champion racer or you're the social media guy, and I've always been the social media guy. Now I'm trying to do both, and I'm learning one has to give. It's either if your full focus is in racing, it's hard to dedicate extra time to social media and stuff like that. So it's been I've been doing this for 25 years now, and this year I've learned the most from it. I've experienced the most from it, and I think it's gonna allow me to give back a lot more the way I've approached this year, that's what I use my social media platforms for so much. I was the kid that grew up in the South that didn't have people to talk to, or didn't know who to ask for guidance to be this athlete I wanted to be. And now I'm kind of at the point where I was like, I've learned so much in my years that I can pass it down and hopefully reach out to some other kid that's in the same boat that doesn't have anyone nearby or locally, or doesn't even know the questions to ask to be a top athlete, because I was that kid. I didn't know even until into my 30s, I was still learning how to ask this stuff and how to accept accept the guidance, I guess you'd say. But yeah,
Well, it
we
sounds
kind of rambled on that one.
No, it sounds like you're in a really like mature place and where you're at, and you're very accepting of like where you've gone, where you're at, and what's ahead of you, which
Absolutely.
is awesome. You talked about your social media presence, and part of my mission is, well, it's partly to promote or raise awareness for distracted driving, and partly to promote digital wellness. And a lot of stress and anxiety comes from our phones these days, especially with the younger population. So I'm curious to hear, from your perspective, with someone with a strong social media presence, and it's been a big part of your work and promoting yourself. How do you balance that, everything coming from your phone, Instagram, everything else, with your family? You have a wife and a child. Like, how do you keep those priorities in line?
It's been harder lately. I've always looked at social media as a very important part of being an athlete, but even before it was really that important, because I always looked at it as there can only be one champion, right? So if I'm not going to be that champion, not saying I couldn't be, but there's always been someone better than me, which is fine. So they're going to be that person. That's the person who might be harder to have a face-to-face conversation with, or whatever the case may be. They're the champion. They're trying to win. Well, I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to try to reach out and connect with the other 99% of kids that aren't going to be a champion one day. That kind of sounds hard to say, but it's the truth. There's a very small percentage of champions in every sport, and I just thought there was another world that I can share my life and just reach out to these people. And it was always just fun. I just love to do it. I love to share what I'm doing. I like to have other people involved. So for the longest time, it was super easy, because I'll just post what I feel, And I still do that today. But social media every year is growing a little more. It's a little more important. It's even more personal at times. People feel like they know you so well. Someone you've never seen before, they see you all the time. Which that kind of social media is easy, but that part is hard at times.
Feeling like, just to be clear, feeling like a lot of strangers to you know you really well.
Yeah. Just to being at events, and a lot of people know you way more than you know them, which is fine. That's part of it. But balancing that has been tough, because this last year or so, being back into BMX, my audience has really grown, which I'm very grateful for. I share my family side of everything. It's not just BMX on my platform. It's just my lifestyle, and social media is part of my lifestyle. And I'm here to promote my sponsors and sell products that I believe in, not just sell products because they're supporting me. I only have partners that truly partner with my lifestyle and what I do. This year it was Maxxis and Fly Racing is my 20th contract this year.
Wow.
22. Yeah, so that was, I'm super loyal to the brands I work with. I only work with brands that are, like I said, that really partner with my lifestyle. Behind me, Exmark Mowers, they got on board. They sponsored me this year because I just I like to take care of my property, and if I can have a full-time job not leaving my driveway, then that's kind of the long-term goal, to be honest.
I left my job last August, so just over a year ago, and I started riding cross country to raise awareness for distracted driving. So I've been working on this mission for over a year now.
Okay.
I finished the ride in September of this year, so a month and a half ago. And I mentioned I was working with Chris and another guy named Chris. Do you know Chris Jenkins?
I don't know.
He's also at Maxxis.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, he was who connected me with Chris Meyer.
Okay.
Who sent you the email.
Yeah.
But I was trying to figure out what I was going to do after I was done riding, because I don't have a job. And felt pretty passionate about the mission and wanted to continue it. And so just talking through my timeline and everything, it made sense to drive around and interview people.
Yeah,
So
cool.
the goal is to make a video with, kind of compiling all of these conversations as a promotion for the mission.
Okay.
For Maxxis to share all of the athletes that I interview, and also for me, I'm hoping to go into public speaking after this about
cool.
like why I chose to do the bike ride, and with the overall message of like, do what you want to do because it'll work out,
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so that's the short of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Shit. Oh, yeah. What made you pick just awareness of distracted driving? Did you have something happen, or?
Fortunately not to me, but I was working for a summer camp in Massachusetts. That's where I was working before I started riding. And there was they do like hiking and biking trips. And there was a student on a cross-country bike trip in 2013 who was killed by a distracted driver.
No.
So her friends and family started this nonprofit called Text Less, Live More.
Okay.
And everyone who comes through the camp, whether you're a leader or whatever, learns about what happened, and it's a big part of the culture and risk management and all of that for the camp. So that's how I learned about it as a trip leader, and then later
Cool.
as a working for that camp.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So and since I've done it, I've talked to a bunch of people who've also been affected by distracted driving. So other families of people who have been killed, or people who have survived a crash or something, and that's made me feel a lot like closer to the cause, because I never knew the person who was killed. But it's a big issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a ton of issues in the world, but it's something that
That's
you
a big
see
one as
literally
well.
every day if you're driving.
Yeah.
But yeah. So.
That's cool. Yeah. All right. No, I think it's awesome. I'm bad about it as well. But
Yeah.
we'll get into that. But
Well, so when it started raining, I wanted to hear about how your partnership with Maxxis developed, and what that's been like.
Okay. Let me think. Just about my storyline.
Because you said it's been 20 years.
Yeah, it's been. I signed with Maxxis when I was, or maybe, I think that was my first contract. Maybe it was 16. Maybe I was 16. But yeah, I first got partnered up with Maxxis when I was 15 years old, and it was right before I won that Amateur World Championship. So it's just, they're pretty much a local here, being Atlanta. The office, the Maxxis headquarters is 2 hours away. So it was just always. It's Maxxis tires, it's the best tires to put on your bike, so I was already buying them, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember just sending an email to, I wish I could remember her name too. She was one of the main ladies over the sponsorship stuff at the time, and sent her an email, and luckily she had kind of heard about me already, and they started hooking me up with tires, and then soon after that I got put on a contract, and 20 years later, about to be 36, and just signed. 2022 was my 20th contract with Maxxis, which has been pretty awesome. So,
cool.
Thankful for those guys, and they're like local, so it's like I'm staying close to my roots.
So have you been to their headquarters and checked it out?
Oh yeah. I've been to their headquarters in Atlanta, and then where I lived in California, they also had just a warehouse, not a headquarters, but just a warehouse with where they stored everything on the West Coast, which is cool. Me being the type of guy I am with the shop, I like seeing behind the scenes and stuff. So anytime I was able to just go pick up some tires, I'm the first one to just jump in the car and drive 2 hours or drive an hour or whatever to go pick it up, because I want to see behind the scenes than just shipping it out to me. So those guys have been great, man. They've supported every single year, no questions asked. They just have always backed me up and continue their support through whether it's BMX, mountain bikes, racing flat track, Harley Davidsons. Like, they've always been just right there. Cool. We'll support it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So kind of shifting gears, and also just aware that it might start raining again. When you think of distracted driving, what comes into your mind? What do you think of?
When I think of distracted driving, as bad as it is to say, I think about how bad I am about doing it, and I'm aware that I do it, but It's just so easy. You're looking at your maps on your phone, or you get a text, and it's just so easy just to. I'm not saying it's okay by any means, but I hate that I do it even with my family in the car. It's pretty careless to do. I mean, everything can wait on your phone, right? Everything's going to be there when you get to your destination or back home or whatever. But yeah, I hate to say I'm just as bad as most people are out there, because it's just so accessible. It's so easy right in front of you. And my new Mercedes van I got, it has a slot where I put my phone in actually flat, because my other one before I had a spot where it could stand up, so I could actually look at it by the wheel at all times. And now it goes into a little pocket where I can't actually see it. And that's actually been super good for me, because as much as I am aware of trying to stay off my phone, again, you just get it, you get kind of lost in your driving, you're sending a text or checking a post or something that just doesn't even matter. And so now I've gotten way better about tucking it away and not even looking at it until we stop at a gas station or stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's a problem it's a problem in the world. It's not just my own issue, but I see it all the time. I ride Harley Davidsons all the time. I obviously never touch my phone when I'm on my motorcycle, but when I'm on my motorcycle, I'm constantly, every single time I drive out or ride out somewhere, I will drive by someone that's just staring at their phone, and I'm on a motorcycle, and you're a lot more vulnerable to the surroundings, especially when you're free. Just a little bump is going to send you off the road, or could be a fatal crash. Anything on a motorcycle when you're driving 70 miles an hour,
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty scary out there. And again, like, I'm not saying I'm the best at it or anything. I'm still pretty bad, but I just try to be aware of it. And it sucks how bad some people actually are, though, out there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I think at some point or another, every single one of us has been guilty of using our phones or being distracted in a way that could be really dangerous. Distraction ranges from adjusting your car's air conditioner to, looking at something really in depth on your phone that's completely taking your attention off of the road. So there's a lot of like gray area that you could argue like what a distraction is, but I mean the classic is texting while driving.
The phone, yeah, that's
right.
the first one I think of.
Yeah, of course. I also appreciate that you're actively working on it. Do you use any features on your phone like the do not disturb while driving or anything like that to try to minimize the notifications or?
Texting you, the automatic replies I get from you have actually, I didn't even know we could do that. We just get the automatic text about it. So from the process of us getting this organized and you coming here has already taught me that that's possible. So afterwards, I might actually have you show me how you can do that, because I had no idea you could do that. But granted, I always look at it as when I do get a text, they can just wait, But yeah, I think it's something really good to have. I took it as, if you don't get a text back is one thing, but your automated text sending to me reminding me that kind of ingrained that in my head that this is really good to have, and this is a feature maybe I should implement into my just daily life.
Yeah, I started using it just before I started this bike ride because I didn't really know about it either. Mm-hmm. And now, I feel like it's probably annoying because there's certain people that somehow always text me while I'm driving, so they just get this automatic reply. I'm like, oh, well, sorry, but I'm driving,
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? Well, so something that I'm grappling with having these conversations is how it's culturally acceptable to be distracted while driving.
Yeah.
And it's hard to have conversations, even as me, someone who's spent over a year like advocating for distraction-free driving. Like, how do you have a conversation with someone that results in them thinking more seriously about distracted driving without sounding condescending or like a jerk, because I could be like, well, Barry, anything that you're doing on your phone is nowhere near as important as the life that you could end by, driving distracted. And that's,
you're right.
And I think some of the people that I've talked to who have either lost someone or have almost lost their own life from distracted driving, that's sort of the approach they take. But since I don't have that experience, it's a little harder for me to say that like confidently.
Right. But it is true though.
I'm a pretty straight shooter, and so you saying that, whether you've had that experience or not, it's at the end of the day, it's the truth. Is that you can go to the store, you can get in your car, drive to the store, and leave your phone at home, and everything you're gonna do. That's what we used to do years ago, right?
Right.
Maybe the younger people nowadays don't notice, but I remember going to the store not having a phone, and we can manage, but we just get so reliant on having that device right in our pocket or right at arm's length at all time. And living in the country now has been one of the best things for that. Like my phone distractions are just almost nothing throughout the day. I go and I throw some headphones on, I set my phone over like far away from me, and I just listen to my music and just kind of get my work done, because the amount of times I've just wasted hours of the day, whether it's 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there throughout a day, just that my productivity throughout the day has gotten better. And obviously that's not about distracted driving, but it's just, it goes into your everyday life. My wife and I will sit at the baby will go to sleep at night, and we'll find ourselves both looking at our phone instead of spending that quality time with each other on the couch. And we're both fine, but at the end of the day, having a 2-year-old where we learn how fast life is, and it just goes by way too fast. So a lot of those days adding up on the couch, it's kind of, you're just wasting time, and that's why I look at it so much more than just distracted driving, just distracted lifestyle, with having these devices. But my job is my device, so it's crazy to have to go back and forth and find that balance. But it's just quality time is super important to me. So again, I'll stare at my phone and waste plenty of time, but I feel like just being aware of it and trying to be better every day, and just put it down when I am aware of what I'm doing is when I put it down and go hang out with my wife or go hang out with my baby girl, and just kind of focus on what's really important in life. In the same way of driving a car down the road, I'll go to Walmart 4 miles away and find myself looking at my phone. Like, you can go 4 miles without your phone and not take a chance of myself or my family that's in the car with me or someone else that's driving around. And the chances are the list of what could happen never ends, right?
Right. Well, you said all that really well, and I'm curious really to hear because you said when you moved from LA more city life to here, your phone distractions have gone way down. Do you have any idea why that is?
There's all kinds of reasons why, when I lived in California, I lived a very different life. I'm a completely different person than when I was 3 years ago when I was living in California. I was in a completely different relationship. You have the Southern California hustle and bustle around you. You're out in the capital of what we do in sport, and there's always something going on. There's always something to be posting about. It's just a very, very busy lifestyle, which is awesome. I loved it, and I would never take away any of my time or my life spent in California and the experiences I've had. But coming back to the South, living in a country town, the quality of life is just so much better. I'll go a week without even leaving my driveway, just staying right here and just do my phone stuff when it's necessary, and just kind of prioritize with that. And when I'm not on my phone, I just want to have that quality, just life. I want to be out here training. I want to be the best athlete I can be. I want to be the best husband I can be the best dad I can be. And having that device is easily the biggest distraction of all, because it's always right there, and you're getting fed with just kind of nonsense that we don't really you're viewing all this stuff on social platforms that aren't really bettering your life in any kind of way. And that's a huge drive for myself. If I'm going to put anything out on social media, I kind of want someone to benefit from it, even if it's just a cool riding clip, but majority of my post, I want someone to be able to take something from it. I want to show you my raw self, whether it's just me cutting the grass or keeping up on jumps. I always think, how can I film this and someone can benefit out of learning anything from it, and again, it trickles down to all kinds of stuff. Like, what can I just have a conversation about during a training session so a kid doesn't make a mistake that I made in my mid-20s and he can fix it before in his early 20s or before he's 30, in his 30s like me. So, yeah.
Does that awareness affect the things that you consume on your phone, like on Instagram, for example, or do you find that or TikTok, I don't know if you're on TikTok, but like, do you find that you're consumed by, like, do you find yourself like just looking at stuff and then like coming to be like, why was I looking at this? Or do you feel like you're pretty intentional with what you're looking at on your phone?
Every day, I'd say those algorithms feed you something that, that's what it's made for, right? They want to have those eyes on whatever platform you're looking at, and they can just feed you the stuff that you'd like to see. But yeah, it's just like you said, you have to, like, you kind of like wake up to realize what you're doing. Like, wow, I've just spent 15 minutes scrolling by just nonsense stuff, and yeah, it's just the distractions go so far outside of just riding. It's like, again, just lifestyle is so important, and the life we all live and making the most out of our lives. And yeah, I don't know how to put it in words because I know I'm just as bad as everyone else, but it's just being aware of it, and I want to change it, and I want other people to, social media is great. We have these devices for it, and I don't want to get away from just the distractions, but it's such a big distraction of being an athlete, seeing all this other stuff online or what someone else is doing, or you get lost, whether it's a competitor's doing something that you're like, oh, he's doing that better than me, or
Yeah, having those devices, there's so many good benefits out of, like, for myself, trying to push stuff back for kids to view, or kids and adults, they can learn how to do something different, whether it's working on their bike or how they're training. It's just, you get so caught up into what everyone's doing. I still do it. I still see guys I compete against, and it's like, ooh, I kind of wonder, should I be doing that type thing? And it's like a distraction, that's another distraction. Or we're training, or I'm right here in my gym working out, and I get a text, and a text turns into scrolling Instagram. You're like, wow, 6 minutes have gone by between each set of my squats, and I was doing a 3-minute rest, or whatever the case. It's just the list of distractions are endless, no matter what you're doing, and it all comes down to those damn devices.
I think the hard thing for me is that work in so many areas of work are tied to social media. So even if you're someone like you who has the awareness of, how unhealthy and time consuming it can be to be on Instagram, you still need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
In order to be relevant
Yeah.
and to be able to grow yourself, unless
Yeah.
you work in some industry where you don't need social media, like if you're an accountant, you don't need Instagram.
Yeah.
But you're not an accountant, which is
Yeah.
great. I'm glad that you're not.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I don't know what the solution is, because they seem like they just keep getting closer and closer tied.
They really do. Again, I love it. I love the game of social media. I love content. I love filming. I love any chance I have to give back or just post a cool video, even if it's directed to other dudes in their 30s, like, just to stay young. It's like what you were saying about just, you have your passion, just go for it. It kind of works out. It's like we're so derailing a little bit, but we're so caught up in getting old and having having a life or a family, and that's another thing I like to. That's another avenue that I can just push. Like, we don't have to be old. So like when you stop, that's when you lose it. As long as you just don't stop, we can keep trucking along. So I always look at social media in that way. How can I use it for someone to benefit instead of just sitting here wasting my time scrolling with it or posting just garbage? Like, okay, I'm gonna put quality. If I'm gonna dedicate my time to social media, I'm gonna put quality content out there, and it's either something badass or something someone can learn from. And because we have to have it. It's part. You can't just go win races. I hear guys all the time like, I'm here to win races. Well, you can. But if I'm 36, still making a living out of riding BMX bikes, so there's something to be said there. I love doing it, but it's at the end of the day, we're here to sell what our sponsors sell, right? So, which I love it. So it's my full-time job, and I look at it as my 9 to 5, and I wouldn't change it in any other way besides being a little more aware and not letting it waste the meaningless time and taking time away from my family. I just need to keep it with where it's just the job, it's the scrolling. That's why I don't get on TikTok either. TikTok is
talk about just an endless scroll.
Yeah.
15 seconds, then next one.
Yeah. And that app wants you to see all the garbage too, not the good stuff. So
Right.
I try to stay away from that app fully. People don't get that one so much yet. That's a whole other rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah, well, I think you've got all the key pieces in order for having a healthy relationship. Being able to be productive with social media, and your intentions are good for your audience, and you have the awareness where you can step away and focus on all of your life outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I appreciate.
Trying to, I'm trying. Yeah.
Well, that's all you can do is just be aware and try to keep improving.
Yeah.
So last bit, what are you looking forward to in this next year, and what's exciting for you?
Right now, I'm very kind of tunnel vision. We have the USA BMX Grand Nationals coming up Thanksgiving weekend. So I'm in I just started a 5-week block training for that race. That's our championship. I have a pretty good lead in the points chase. We're sitting number 1 right now. So right now it's just that. Next year we'll go right back into another season, try to hold on to that number 1 for another season. But yeah, just keep pushing myself. We have our championships Thanksgiving weekend. The following week I turn 36. So it'll be just trying to stay young, just each year trying to push myself to just literally be the best athlete I can be, and keep the young dudes on their toes when I can.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Barry. It was great chatting.
Yeah, it was fun to be here.
Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Barry Nobles. Like I said, there's something in it for everyone, and I hope that you found that true. I believe it's true, and if it wasn't true, maybe go ahead and give it another listen, because there is something in there for you that will hopefully resonate and make your life just a little bit better. Speaking of making your life a little bit better, let's make your life and the lives of other people, strangers who you will never ever meet, so much better by turning on Driving Focus. This feature on your phone turns off notifications automatically while you're driving, so you don't get your phone lighting up while you're on the road trying to focus on what's most important at that time, which is driving. Less temptation to reach for your phone, to be distracted, means fewer lives lost each day to distracted driving, which are totally avoidable deaths, and you can play a part in that. Please help make our roads safer. Head to eyesupride.com/resources to learn how you can do this if you don't have it on already. We have one more episode in this series, and we are capping things off with one of my favorite people, Rebecca Rusch. She was actually the final interview in the series. I met her in Ketchum, Idaho, just 2 days before I flew back east for the holiday season. Rebecca Rusch is one of the most accomplished athletes and ultra-endurance athletes in the world, and she doesn't talk about it because she is so humble, and she's done some epic adventures. She's always pushing the limits. She's been doing it for so long, and her connection with Maxxis is mountain biking, but she does it all. She's had a really impressive and extensive career, which she touches on, but do yourself a favor and Google Rebecca Rusch after this and enjoy all of her success stories and all of the good things that she brings to the sporting world, because she's not only successful, but she's committed to creating positive change in all things sports and helping young people get there. So that's next time. We have Rebecca Rusch coming up to cap things off. Thanks again for listening. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. Make sure you subscribe to Eyes Up Life on your podcast app. Follow Eyes Up Ride on Instagram. Check out the video with Barry that was posted just a couple days ago. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.